Declassified CIA documents have exposed a stunning Cold War-era operation. The American intelligence agency attempted to recruit British Prime Minister Winston Churchill as a propagandist for Radio Liberty broadcasts targeting the Soviet Union. The Telegraph has reported on these newly declassified files, which reveal the extent of CIA influence operations during the height of the Cold War. In 1958, when Churchill was 83 years old and had already retired from active politics, CIA officials specifically targeted the legendary British leader to deliver anti-Soviet propaganda broadcasts designed to undermine the communist bloc. Radio Liberty and its sister organisation Radio Free Europe were the CIA's principal instruments of psychological warfare against the Soviet Union. Throughout the Cold War, these CIA-funded and covertly controlled radio stations bombarded Eastern Europe and the Soviet Union with propaganda broadcasts until 1972. The two organisations were merged into RFERL in 1976 and continued receiving American government funding. The CIA's 1958 operation against Churchill was part of a larger revisionism strategy. At that time, ideological cracks were emerging within the Soviet bloc. Different communist states were questioning Moscow's absolute control, and communist thinkers were challenging Marxist-Leninist orthodoxy. CIA briefing documents declassified decades later show the agency's goal was to stimulate heretical thinking and undermine confidence in any form of Marxism by suggesting that its basic assumptions, its historical method, and its predictions are false. By recruiting prominent Western figures like Churchill, a figure respected globally and known as an anti-communist crusader, the CIA believed it could lend credibility to these messages and exploit ideological divisions within the communist world. It was psychological manipulation on a grand scale. The revelation of these declassified documents raises uncomfortable questions about CIA operations and Cold War tactics. If Churchill, perhaps the most respected democratic leader of the mid-20th century, was targeted for recruitment into a propaganda operation, how many other Western figures received similar offers? The documents suggest the CIA viewed intellectual and political elites across the Western world as potential assets in its information warfare against the Soviet Union. This was the era of MKUltra, covert regime change operations, and the steady expansion of CIA influence into every corner of Western culture and politics. Fast forward to 2025 and RFERL, the direct descendant of Radio Liberty and Radio Free Europe, continues to receive American government funding through the US Agency for Global Media, USAGM. However, President Donald Trump's budget cutbacks have dramatically altered the organization's operations. Recently, USAGM announced it would be cutting more than 500 staff positions following hundreds of layoffs in preceding months. This raises a contemporary question. What is the purpose of these propaganda organizations in the modern era? Are they still tools for American information dominance, or have they evolved? The only difference now is that the tools are more sophisticated. The reach is global through digital platforms, and the target is no longer just the Soviet Union.